Good evening and welcome to The Read Down. We are your weekly progressive political hot take from the Stonewall Democratic Club. And on tonight's episode, we'll be reading down the shocking report from The Atlantic that the president called fallen troops losers and suckers, among other news events. And we'll be opening the library, of course, to read the GOP for filth while giving you the rundown on the latest 2020 developments. I am your host, Jonathan Welch. I am joined by my co-host, Ebony Murphy-Root. Happy Tuesday. It feels like Monday, but here we are. So, and of course, Alex Mohajer is not with us this week. So we have the beauty of having two special guests. So one is one of the hosts of the Earwolf podcast, Spanish Aquí Presents, Tony Rodriguez.
Hola, mucho gusto.
Ooh, I took French in college. I have no idea. So Duolingo, please help me. It's yelling at me every single day to be like, "Are you coming back? Are you coming back?" And I'm not. And our other guest host today, he is the casting producer for the Emmy Award nominated HBO series We're Here, now casting its second season, Jeffrey Marx.
Thank you. Hello. I forgot to even mention the Emmy part, so thank you for remembering.
Of course. How can I forget? How can I forget that you're part of an Emmy nominated show? And really, what a fantastic show that you're associated with, Jeffrey and Tony. What a great podcast that you're associated with. You guys are doing excellent work out there, and we're so happy to have you tonight to talk about what the hell's going on in the world. So happy post Labor Day. We hope everybody had a wonderful and relaxing weekend, because we are about to make your blood pressure go up. So I want to start tonight by going into our big Democratic energy of the week. There is a lot going on right now, but what we at Stonewall have committed ourselves to is the National Vote at Home initiative. So we're very proud that last week we were able to launch this initiative, and we shared a little bit of that with you with Deborah Messing's video last week. In the subsequent days, we are now on day 8, and we have been uploading videos every day targeting 16 swing states and trying to get people to understand the parameters of voting at home and what that entails. In today's video, we had RuPaul's Drag Race star Nina West talk to us about Ohio. We have a little clip of that.
Hi friends, it's me, Nina West. I'm thrilled to be here, coming to you today as a fellow Ohioan who lives in Columbus, Ohio. I think we can all agree that 2020 may just be the most important election of at least my lifetime. There's a lot at stake, and there's also a lot happening at the same time with the global pandemic. But there are safe and easy ways to avoid lines, practice social distancing, and even vote at home. Ohioans are voting, and we're projecting a record turnout, and every single vote matters. But there has been a lot of confusion recently about how to vote by mail, and I'm here to help clear it up, because it is so simple. All you have to do is register by submitting your application online by Saturday, October 31st at 12 p.m. You can actually do it right here, right now. Just click the link in the caption of this video, and it only takes a minute. Then your ballot arrives in the mail for you to fill out and seal and pop back in the mailbox just like that. Now, due to slowdowns in the Postal Service, the U.S. Postal Service has said to allow maybe a round-trip total of 14 days for your ballot, so it's recommended that you request your mail-in ballot early and mail it in by at least October 20th. And contrary to what this administration wants you to believe, the studies show that vote by mail fraud is simply not a thing. Okay, not real. And you can even ensure that your vote has been received and counted? Wow, sounds like there are no issues to voting from home. Sign up now. For more information about voting at home, visit stonewall.vote/Ohio. Thank you for exercising your rights. Thank you for voting.
Hey, Read Down family, it's me, Alex. I am so sorry I couldn't be there this week. I miss you all. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Ebony. And hi to our special guests, Jeffrey and Tony. I hope you are holding down the fort while I'm gone. And hey, look, if you haven't yet, visit stonewall.vote to make a plan to vote. A plan A and a plan B. We got 56 days left till Election Day, and we need all hands on deck, so please join us. I can't wait to be back with you all next week, and have a good episode of The Read Down. Bye.
Alex is always here. He's always here to remind us. And also, by the way, when I said we had a clip, I didn't realize we had the whole video. But hey, now you've seen the entire video of Nina West, and we've had some other really fantastic people. We had the original Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, talk to us about Arizona and try to get Arizonans voting by mail. And of course, voting by mail is something that has happened in Arizona for years now. It's actually one of their standard practices. It happens in red states like Utah. It happens in blue states. It happens all over the place, and it's happening whether we like it or not, and we're getting our ballots in the mail. So it's something that Stonewall is very proud to educate people on. So check it out at stonewall.vote. You can see if your state is listed, if your state is not listed, and you're curious about voting parameters in your state. Visit iwillvote.com. So let's go on to a couple of other things that are going on in the news, guys. Right now, as we're talking about it, voters are already this week starting to vote in the 2020 election. Voters in North Carolina have received their mail-in ballots and are already able to, or at least they've started to receive their mail-in ballots, and they're already able to send those back. So voting has started. 56 days to go. I want to know what you guys think. How do you feel? I know polls are tightening in certain states like Pennsylvania and North Carolina. I'm going to start with Ebony. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready to vote. I'm excited. My friends in other states are getting ballots, and I think we need to just generate as much enthusiasm as possible. The right to vote has been a hard-fought privilege, in my view. And so we should be excited. We should fill out those ballots. We should make a party out of it. We should have Zoom parties. We should make tea and seltzer and, wine, and be excited to represent and encourage and preserve our democracy.
Absolutely. Like, let's make it fun for people. Voting is something that it doesn't have to be, something that you do alone on election day. You can vote with your friends. You can bring other people to the polls. You can make your plan to vote by mail. What are you guys doing? Tony, how are you voting this year? Tell us your plan.
I usually vote. I have a vote by mail. I live in California, and I usually walk it down to my polling place. And I was planning to do that this year. I hadn't occurred to me. Thank you, Ebony, for saying throw a party, because now I want to throw a polling party. But since we're voting early, it can just last. Let's call it a Save Democracy party, and just from here until November 3rd, just a party to celebrate and cling to our democracy.
Does this mean that we all have to just drink from now until November 3rd?
If that works for you, then yes.
Cool. I know.
I support you.
It could be seltzer. It could be LaCroix if you so wish. Jeffrey, tell us. I want to know your voting plan. You're also Californian.
Well, my voting plan is I'm actually going to go to the poll in person with hand sanitizer and a mask, but I personally want to go and physically cast my vote. I'm also thinking of becoming a poll booth helper person. So I'm going to look into that because I feel like I'm at a medium level of like afraidness of the virus. So I feel like if you're able to, they'll need workers that day. And I feel like I'm in the position to do that. I also think that most of America decided probably back at the end of March or early April, they were ready to go to Survivor Final Council, Tribal Council and vote. Like, we are ready to vote. So the sooner the better. Let's send them in.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, when we're talking about how much we cannot wait to vote, like, I think a lot of the chaos that the Trump administration is kind of creating, I'm not necessarily sure if that's something that is resonating with like our side. I don't know if you guys agree with me. If you know, I think that there's just generally an understanding that vote by mail for us is something that we can do, and we also understand that like early voting is an option, or you know, and things like that. So, do you think that some of this might backfire on Trump because he's of course preaching to his base?
He is a chaos master. He is a chaos master, but I think we've just we have to get the word out for people to vote in whichever way they can. We cannot let his chaos muddy the waters. We can't allow it. Jeff, what were you going to say?
Oh, me? I was going to say, as far as the people I know and the people they know, and that even includes like conservative folks that are kind of coming around to talking about how Trump sucks. Like, that's kind of like two people removed in my sphere, that there are people talking like that used to be part of his base that are slowly kind of stepping away from that. So I don't think it's going to affect anyone outside of his hardcore base. I think people are listening. I think people are dialed in. I think people are fed up. And I think people are starting to change their minds if they hadn't already. And I think that's a really important voter block that we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, you, I know you were just out in Temecula, California, which is certainly a much redder portion of our state. There's a lot of pride around Trump. You see boat parades in which Trump flag laden boats are getting sunk in the lake, in the river, whatever. Poseidon is on it.
Can I just say for a second, I want to say, over this long, boring, hot weekend where I literally was just sitting around with my mom for like 4 days, nothing brought more glow to my sad, cold little heart than seeing those boats on the lake needing to get rescued. Is the biggest metaphor I've seen. So enjoy those news moments, because the news can be so terrible and sad right now. Enjoy those extreme happy thoughts. And those boats were it for me this weekend.
I'm so glad you said that, Jeff, because I'm not trying to win any like nicest person award. I guffawed. That was hilarious. You're right. That was all sorts of metaphors, and I'm with it. You know, all boats matter. That's what I say.
That's right. Wow. Like, why aren't you helping me? Why aren't you helping my boat?
So good.
Of course, our dear co-host is saying God hates Trump, obviously. I'm also saying that it's totally a Poseidon thing, but it's also, guys, I mean, you're proving that perhaps Trump supporters, and maybe I sound arrogant, maybe I sound cocky, but Trump supporters are not the brightest bulbs, okay? Because huge waves or huge boats spinning around, showing your pride with 72 flags in every color, those are going to make big waves for those little like glorified jet skis. Those are going down. So, you know, if you're going to have a boat parade, you may as well figure out how to have a boat parade before you go ahead and do it. Tony, do you have a boat, and are you going to put a Biden flag on it?
Oh my God, I should get a boat just to put a Biden flag on it. I'm from Miami, and you would think I would just have a boat just from that fact alone, but no, but thank you. I'm getting so many ideas. Voting party from Ebony. Jonathan, you're giving me get a boat. Jeffrey, can I say real quick, thank you so much for even considering being a poll worker. I have a website because I was looking at it as well. I haven't decided, but if anyone feels inclined to, powerthepolls.org. I'm not affiliated with it. I don't think anyone here is. but that is a website where you can go and see about working as a poll worker on election day and the days leading up to it. Yeah, I'm gonna get a vote.
Okay, get a vote and vote.
Whoa!
Power to the polls.
but it's power the polls.org. You know, we want to make that was very quick, and I really just want to say you can power the polls as well. But
Plan B, baby.
Yes, that's right. Have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. You never know what's going to happen. You never know how this election's going to turn out. If you need to pick up a PVC pipe, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But it's important, and I'm glad you brought that up, Tony, because Jeffrey, of course, saying that you're going to be a poll worker. I have also volunteered to be a poll worker in California. It's something that we should do no matter where we are, because polls are worked by traditionally elderly retirees who are, they have the time, they're able to show up at 5 a.m. and get the polls ready, and they stay all the way to the end, but working professionals, people who are younger, aren't necessarily doing that. I should have looked up and written down this initiative, but there's also an initiative that's trying to recruit Gen Zers. So like the college students and the high school students who are able to work the polls, these 18 to 25-year-olds, like can definitely spare that time. They're younger, they're able, they're ready, and they're getting amped as well. So there are a lot of things out there. Check it out. Check out Power of the Polls. Talk to the young people in your lives, and maybe you can get some poll workers out of the deal.
It pays.
It does pay. That's right. I think that depends on where you are, though. In California, it does. So here in LA County, it does pay. I don't know if that's the case for every state. However, even if it doesn't, you know what the payback is? It's democracy doesn't die. So you guys are doing something.
Yes.
In the effort of democracy living on, the race between Trump, Pence, and Biden Harris is going strong. Kamala Harris, of course, is out there doing media appearances, but she made her first in public campaign appearance in Wisconsin. She met with Black business owners and members of the Black community. She also met with the family of Jacob Blake, who was the young man who was shot in the back by police for pretty much no reason, and has sparked protests through his area of Kenosha, Wisconsin, and all throughout the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a very interesting state. We'll talk about that in a second. We do have a clip of Kamala meeting with people who just outside one of her meetings.
Okay, we have to get this done. I need your help in Milwaukee. Make sure everybody votes early, right? By September 17th, you're going to get your ballots. October 20th, early voting starts. That's my birthday. So I need your help, okay? All right, and thank
you. Okay, we love Kamala.
I love
Stonewall
her.
Democrats. It's like the LGBTQ Democrat Club.
Oh, hi, Jeffrey. There you are. So yeah.
Am I paused? Sorry, I'm back.
No, there was a little delay. There's a little delay, but we've got you. So yeah, the people love Kamala. Of course, that made me like so sad that we don't have all of these in-person opportunities to meet Joe and Kamala, to actually see the candidates out there. But she brought up a very important point that we bring up in our Vote at Home initiative, and that is that Election Day is actually October 20th if you're voting by mail, and that's Kamala's birthday. So are we going to celebrate Kamala's birthday this year? Are we going to do it for her?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I committed earlier to celebrating every day until
Yeah.
Actually, the day that she was officially announced, I was in Julian, California, and I had bought one of those Julian apple crumb pies, and I brought it home to my mom, and I said, we're going to eat this in celebration of Kamala today. So I've been celebrating ever since.
That's perfect.
You are the second person to mention those pies in the past month, so I've got to get one of those pies.
They're really amazing.
Listen, I come from, and Ebony, you too. We come from New England, where apple picking is a thing. You know, where like the fall is spectacular, and right now it's 100 and something degrees over the weekend. 121, crisp and cool. So we're not really having that fall experience. So if you have to go to Julian, go ahead. So I wanted to bring up Wisconsin, though, because, of course, we're looking at polling. And right now, the 538 average has Biden leading Trump by 7.5 points in Wisconsin, which is the exact same lead that he has over Trump nationally. So Wisconsin was, of course, a state that in 2016 did not go our way. In 2018, had a very, very tight, razor-thin margin for the Democratic governor, Tony Evers. I'm concerned. I'm looking at polling in Pennsylvania, and that's getting incredibly tight, and that's Joe Biden's home state. It seems as though there's a polling bump. How nervous should I be? What do we think? I'm going to start with Tony. Try to make me feel better.
Oh, brother. I don't know how to make you feel better.
That's fine. That's fair.
I just don't know. Because I really want to be optimistic, and I'm leaning into optimism. But I'm a little. I think that fear. Let's lean into a healthy amount of like fear and what would you say?
I guess.
Like we gotta do the work. We gotta do everything we can to tell everyone we know to get out the vote and vote enthusiastically. Let's make it fun, like Ebony said earlier. Maybe it's a healthy amount of fear. Maybe this is healthy. Do we want this democracy or not?
Yeah, exactly. And like, you're from Florida, so you're from one of those states that is like, it always goes back and forth. We know Florida's been a fakakta mess every election, right? But this year we're seeing consistent polling in Florida that shows Joe Biden ahead, with the exception of a poll that came out today that showed, I think that they were tied, or I think they were tied essentially at 48-48, which means not many undecideds there, but the polling average does show him ahead. Do you hear anything from your family, or do you call them and say, like, I'm never coming home again if you don't do this for me?
Oh, not for other reasons, yes, but no political reasons. Well, you're just throwing me this. But my brother is running for re-election. He's a state senator.
Yes.
Miami, Democrat. He endorsed Joe Biden even before the debates.
Oh, incredible. So he's a trendsetter.
Yeah, absolutely a trendsetter. And he's straight.
Yeah. Not typical.
I honestly, these polls, I guess it's going back to feels good. See it when I believe it. But maybe that's healthy. I don't have anything.
Here's the thing. I don't think we should put too much weight on polls. I personally, this is my personal point of view, I think polls are stupid. People can lie. People can be undecided. They can be manipulated in the media for both directions. I just say, do what you need to do. Motivate people around you. Go and vote on whatever day, whether it's mailing in or in person. That's the only true weapon we have. And to think about and worry and put all this time and energy into polls, I really think is a waste of time. At least emotional energy, it's a waste, in my opinion.
Well, you're also seeing that like these polls have a sample size of like 400, 420. Alex, we just showed that he may lead in the polls, but there are a lot of racist voter ID laws. There are a lot of voter suppression tactics that are preventing these votes from getting out. So I guess, what can we do to kind of counter those efforts? Like, do you know people in these states? Like, do we push voting plans? Like, how do we do it? I can't sleep at night. So I'm asking you, Ebony, help me.
My idea for the past 8 years, maybe more than that, maybe 12 or 16, my entire adult life, is that we need to reclaim this narrative of the working class, right? Like, my dad is a truck driver. Ivanka Trump's dad is not a truck driver. So I get to decide what is the working class, right? And it's not them and it's not that, right? So if you work for a living, you need to, do your research, but vote Democrat, okay? The Republicans are not the party of the working class guy, the Joe Six-Pack, the woman who works in a diner. you're not going to hang out with Ivanka Trump at the RNC, right? You're a working class person, and we need to reclaim that narrative.
Can you even imagine hanging out with Ivanka Trump?
No.
I can. I did. I imagined it.
Yeah, you can. It's gross. It's real gross.
I went to prep school in Connecticut, so yes, I can imagine it, and we're not missing anything.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's the thing. We're talking about the working class. We're talking about how our values line up with the values of most Americans. So it's incumbent on us, I think, to have those conversations, right? Like, we have to go and talk to the people in our lives. Like, if you have that racist uncle on Facebook, when you see him Thanksgiving's going to be too late. If you happen to see him at your Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations in early October, or whatever's going on. Maybe you're having a party for my birthday, September 18th. I don't know. But when you see these family members, when you actually get to talk to them, you should bring this stuff up, because I think we have this tendency to think that it's not okay to have those political conversations. And I was having actually a conversation with a friend of mine today, a work friend of mine, where I just said, I think this is part of what I want my life's work to be, is to make sure that we feel a little bit more comfortable with political conversations. Get uncomfortable and then feel like this is the norm, right? So,
well, politics is I mean, it's a cliche, but it is personal, and especially for marginalized people. To keep politics off the table, especially with family members, it just doesn't make sense to me. I was going to talk about this later, but let's do it now.
Yeah. You move the people in your life, right? Yeah.
And sometimes you hit a wall, right? And not everyone has the, let's say, can afford to sort of let's say queer people who have families that are not accepting of them. Sometimes what they have is their presence in their lives, and they can sort of turn away. Not everyone has that sort of ability, right? Some people live with their family or financially dependent, but we do have ourselves in our conversations. And when you hit that wall, I think it's okay to step away a little bit for your own mental sanity. But you know what? Do it after the election. Actually, I take that back. Wait till the end of the year.
Yes. Oh yeah.
No, I think that's an important point. I think people need to be able to hear that it's okay to step away, whether it's long-term, short-term, middle-term, because if it's better for you to step away, do it. I've cut myself off from a few of my family members, and it wasn't initially because of politics, but it has turned into that also. I found out some of them were secret Trumpers back in the day, and I did not know that. But I have no intention of talking to those people anytime soon. It doesn't mean that the door is closed forever, but I have been in the best place in my life the past 3.5 years, despite a pandemic, because I've opened up clearer channels of energy for that.
Yeah, I saw something. It was a tweet that I noticed, and I shared it, but I also have felt this for a little while, and I think I've had this come up in conversations, that when we talk politics, we're not talking politics per se, we're talking morals. We're talking about our personal values and our morals. And that's really what it is that we're trying to uphold. And that's what it is that we're trying to share with people. And that's the broader defense, is that we're actually caring about things that are indicative of who we believe we are as people. So tell that to the people whose boats are sinking, this is why we're here. This is what we care about.
And you're voting against our safety, really. Any minority is unsafe in Trump's America. So if you're voting for him, that means you're voting against me as a person.
Yeah. All four of us really share that, that there are things that they are doing to marginalize LGBTQ people, to marginalize Black people, to marginalize women, to marginalize Latinos. It's just it doesn't end. It doesn't stop.
How do you talk to someone when it's not personal? I just thought of this. When it's just empathy. Let's say a family member or something where it's not your personal experience, it's just your empathy, or your friends, people you love are affected by these marginalized groups, how do you talk to someone there?
I'll let anybody else take this. I don't want to hog the floor.
Well, I have an idea that just popped in my head. So I was, like you mentioned, I was out in Temecula this long weekend. And as part of a secret mission that I can't really explain, but I went to the Trump rallies that take place like at the side of the road.
Jeffrey.
To invest in dialogue and to chat with these people and the organizers. And I had to put on my bravest, happiest little professional hat on to talk to them. And it was scary for about 18 minutes. And as I got less scared and less anxious, they were excited to have a liberal person to shout at and then ask questions to. So it was a lot of shouting at first that I kind of like pushed around. And then once we got to the real meat of conversation, they really, what it is, I heard them on a lot of levels of things that they think are genuine problems that I don't agree with, but I get where they're coming from. But also what I found is there's a lack of inward thought. There's a lack of being able to take a spotlight and shine it on yourself and your heart, and to be able to think of the world outside of your direct tunnel. And that's what I think a lot of those people are missing. And that's why we're so quick to say, you're a bad person, I'm never talking to you again, my morals are different than you. It's because I think we are more empathetic people. We have more empathy woven into the fiber of our being than a lot of those people do.
I was thinking about this in terms of the pandemic today, actually, because it's frustrating to see how so many portions of the country are handling the pandemic, that they don't want to wear masks, that they refuse to believe it's real. And on the one hand, it's scary to really acknowledge the truth of this disease and what it can do and what it's done and what it is doing, and how it's really affected us and how much worse it can get. But on the other, if you don't know anybody who's had it, and we live in major metropolitan cities, and like I used to live in New York City, I know Jeffrey, you did too. And Ebony, I think you were there for a very short time, right? And Tony, did you live in New York?
Oh, like a dozen years.
Oh God!
That's how Tony and I met when we were wee children in New York.
Now just slightly we are older children.
Was that when you were at the UCB under Gristides together?
Yes,
it was.
Yes.
That's right. Mm-hmm. I loved Gristides. Anyway, listen. But what I was saying is that was my supermarket. But I feel like we lived in New York, so we have connections to people in New York. That's the first place where this pandemic really hit. And, I think a lot of us knew people who were affected early on. And then on top of that, we've had our surges in Los Angeles. We've had major surges of especially after the 4th of July weekend. You had a lot of people who just kind of flouted the restrictions, and they didn't care, and they went for it anyway. So when you're in those major cities, you're going to find people who are actually affected. When you're outside, maybe you don't, so it is that kind of narrow scope that Jeffrey, you're talking about. And perhaps it is just sitting down, and I applaud Jeffrey that you did that, because I think maybe that's something that we all have to kind of learn to do, is sit down. And we're so quick to point a finger and say no, you're wrong and you're bad. But why don't we listen? And maybe I need to do more of that, because I've been talking for a while. So,
I mean, it's an interesting experiment. So if anyone's listening who has those types of people in their lives, definitely mentally prepare for it if you're going to do it, because it took me a whole preparation to get into it. But once you're in it and you're going back and forth and listening and being sassy here, being sassy there, people do learn something from it, from that exchange.
Definitely. And I think that part of this is that we do have to convince a lot of people to specifically vote for Joe Biden, and there are a lot of people who may have adverse opinions to that may think Joe Biden is not blank enough for them.
Deal with it in January, people. Deal with it in January. I don't want to hear it anymore. He's the nominee. Let's go. That's it.
We can move them.
He's not Sorry, I had nothing eloquent to say about
Keep
that.
going. I mean, I love this.
No, he's not like, I'm going to make arguments from like 2019. You know what I mean? Like we're living in that reality. I don't have time for it either, Jeffrey. I agree.
Yeah, we don't have the luxury to do that nuanced breakdown the left likes to do. We don't have the luxury to do that. I'm very happy to support the 7th choice of president for me. He was my 7th choice, and I'm thrilled. You want to know how fast I went? I went, oh, my first, second, third choice looks like it's not working out. Well, great. I guess I'm going to support my 7th choice. It happened overnight. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have my magnets ready to go and my buttons and my stickers. Let's do this.
Yeah. The merch. You need the merch. I mean, last week we had beer koozies. This week you have to show that pride. But in a show of someone who you wouldn't think would support Joe Biden, supporting Joe Biden, in a CNN interview the other day, Anita Hill, who is very well known for being Clarence Thomas's accuser, who tried to stop Clarence Thomas from elevating to the Supreme Court, and we really wish she succeeded. She was not fairly treated by Joe Biden in those hearings in 1991. It was clearly a very different time. And of course, we've kind of waited to hear from Anita Hill. Anita Hill came out and said that, of course, she will be voting for Joe Biden, that she is supporting Joe Biden, and that she feels that she can work with Joe Biden. If Anita Hill, if Angela Davis, who is the well-known Black Panther, who was in prison for a while and is, a very far left activist, is enthusiastically, well, I wouldn't say enthusiastically, but she's supporting Joe Biden, and she's putting it out there that, of course, that's the only choice. If they're doing it, why can't we?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So, yeah, Jonathan, we're surprised that Anita Hill is supporting Joe Biden, but I'm not, because, Black women live in a world where we have to be practical. And 30 years ago was a long time ago. And if you look at the history of who supported Clarence Thomas and how wild it was, you had people like Maya Angelou, who wrote a letter in favor of Clarence Thomas. So when we talk about Yes, if you talk about the identity politics of the 90s and this idea that we had to get another Black man on the court after Justice Marshall, it was a totally different time. And I think Anita Hill has the awareness of history, the awareness of how the culture has shifted. And of course, she's supporting Joe Biden. You think Anita Hill wants to live in Trump's America for another 4 years? So I am unsurprised that these practical, educated Black women are like, all right, I will work with Joe Biden, because that is what we do. We work with the people who are going to get us where we need to go.
And that's like truly the lesson, Ebony, that I think like every voter on the left needs to be reminded of, right? Like, we're working together. We can actually achieve something instead of, creating some sort of platform of perfection.
Well, and it's this whole concept, like you mentioned, of like, Biden looks like someone I can work with. And so we have to remind ourselves that the lesser of two evils is still less evil. And you have to be able to identify who you can work with to get the things that are important to you to move that needle forward. And guess what? Trump isn't going to do anything that's important to me, and definitely not the people around him who wrangle him. So we have to be able to make certain compromises in our morals that make the needle move forward. And for me, I have no problem doing Joe Biden. voting for Joe Biden is what I meant to say.
My seventh choice frequently. I'll do my seventh choice. That's all I can get.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they've tested COVID negative. I do want to say, what would really make things right is if President Biden put Anita Hill on the Supreme Court.
What?
That would be sweet justice. And we've never had a Black woman on the Supreme Court. And we've saved America's ass for 200 years. So it needs to happen. I have a little, I'm still mad Obama didn't do it, but it's time, America.
Yeah, there is, there's time. There's certainly time. And if we're talking about evil people, I want to get into the big news story of the week. And that is going to take up some mental energy. In an Atlantic piece, a bombshell report, sources who are anonymous have said that in the past, Donald Trump has called soldiers who have been killed in active duty losers and suckers. going on to talk about an incident visiting the cemetery in which former Chief of Staff John Kelly's son, who was killed at the age of 29 in combat, was buried. Trump said, "What's in it for them? I don't get it. What's in it for them?" This was upsetting. I am the son of an Air Force veteran. I have a lot of veterans in my family. I had a cousin who was a Marine who later committed suicide because of PTSD. I struggle with this because I feel as though this could be the thing that this should be the thing that really makes people upset. I struggle with words right now. So let's get into this topic.
I mean, his base doesn't care. So they just don't. They like that Trump in charge makes liberals cry. They like that. It lights their fire. They jack off to it on a regular basis. They love it. So they're going to skip over this. They have, like I said earlier, they have a lack of empathy in a general sense. And so these comments are not going to really strike to their core, and they're going to easily be able to skip over them emotionally.
You're right. You're just totally right. Yeah. And, I hardly ever cuss, but he said that shit. That's how he talks. This is grab him by the pussy. This is locker room talk. This is those idiots who couldn't figure out how to sneak their way into an Ivy League college. Like, this is how he thinks, that anybody who does something that's not transactional, that's not about money, is an idiot. That's what he thinks. So for anybody to be like, he would never say that, you're delusional. It's like one of his tells, right? Like, I would never say that about John McCain, and then immediately insulting him. This is who he is. So we, as the people with decency, need to say this will not stand. Please.
Yeah, I think I agree with y'all that the base, they don't really care. And there's a part of them that I think they like. They like that Trump's just like a rough talker, and you always know what he's thinking. But Jonathan, every time one of these stories comes out, I'm like, oh, of course this is horrible and decent people should be outraged, but it never seems to matter. There's a part of me that's like, is this going to matter a little bit because it's so close to the election? And it would sort of, we all know he said it. I think everyone knows he said these things.
Yeah.
But people with military families, like yours, Jonathan, my grandfather was a World War II vet. My Cuban immigrant father is a U.S. Army vet. That these comments might push over into sort of Republican military voters and sort of sway it. Do any of you think that?
Yeah, well, I think what it does is it puts the good Republicans, the Republicans who have a history with this country, I think it puts people like Meghan McCain in a really tough spot to be able to justify anything that Trump does. And so there is this margin of Republican voters that know in their hearts, this is not right, this is not the right thing. And I think they're waiting for the timing to really kind of be more vocal about that. We've seen a little bit from Mitt Romney. We've seen a little bit from this person and that person. But I really think there's going to end up being just like a bombardment as we get closer to the election of some of these very kind of, what the Republican Party used to be and used to represent. And they're not happy with that talk. They don't want that person in charge. If they could figure out a way to lead America without that noise, they could. They would. And I think Joe Biden, unfortunately for some of us progressive, more liberal, left, Joe Biden is the answer to that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is I'm glad you that somebody brought up the McCains. It's been a long day. I forget already. Yes. But, I think it's pretty clear at this point that the McCains are probably supporting Joe Biden. I don't want to put words in their mouths, but Cindy McCain spoke at the DNC about her husband's relationship with Joe Biden. Meghan McCain on The View has had Joe Biden on there. It's no secret they're friends, and also John McCain is living to this day rent free, still alive in Donald Trump's head.
Oh my God,
he cannot get him out of his head.
He's bothered. He's bothered.
And as a result, I know we talk polls and polls don't matter, but every single poll that we have seen in the past 6 months out of Arizona puts Joe Biden not only over Donald Trump, but well over Donald Trump at this point. So the state
in Arizona.
McCain's Arizona.
I will also mention this is every Republican I spoke to starting from like 2016 to like 2018-ish, that like first 2 year period, when I would ask them about who could beat Trump in the next election, who should we look to put forward to, and they said Trump's going to win no matter what, except I would be nervous if Joe Biden ran, and here we are. So I hope they're all nervous.
Yeah.
I sat up straight when Biden when he was responded to these comments. I sort of like, it caught me by surprise, and I kind of like, he's angry. He's engaged. Yeah. Like, oh, I feel bad that you were my 7th choice. Maybe you're my 5th now.
Yeah.
It seems to like energize him a little bit, which.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I think if there's any subject that gets to Joe Biden, it's when you talk about his son, really. His son, Beau, was, he was a veteran. And of course, Beau died of cancer. And you have this person who means so much to Joe Biden, to his father, who's no longer there. And, like you're kind of shitting on the memory of not only, him, but you're shitting on the memory of everybody who served and is no longer with us, whether they died in combat or not. Like, you are just completely dishonoring the U.S. military. And another thing, the Trump administration decided that they wanted to kill Stars and Stripes, which is the long-running military publication. And then, of course, when all of these comments came out and you saw this massive backlash, Trump kind of came back and said, oh, no, just kidding. We're going to save the Stars and Stripes. So
why was that on the table? Why in God's name?
Good question. Ebony, were you going to answer?
Because he has no understanding of tradition and meaning, right? He loves pomp and circumstance and parades and flags, but something where you write about your beliefs and you every month you type it up. Like, he doesn't get that. There's no money in that. There's no pomp. So he's like, let's just get rid of this newspaper. It's classic him. He doesn't understand anything that's not money. So he was probably shocked at the backlash.
Well, it's also journalism. It's also nonpartisan journalism. And so, of course, to kill any form of that is something that's like right in his wheelhouse, But I think I lost my train of thought. I have a headache. So somebody take
Trump
over.
Train 20. Oh no, is that the Trump train?
No, it's a Trump boat. Okay.
Oh, she's sinking now.
It's true.
No.
I did neglect to prepare the clip that I wanted to, which was the ad from Vote Vets. So almost right away, the parents of fallen soldiers from Iraq and Afghanistan, who, these soldiers are about my age, really, or if not younger, who died in combat, their parents came out with a scathing ad against Donald Trump and for Joe Biden, just based on these comments. I mean, I tend to think that, we think, of course, nothing's going to move people, but listen, we're not going to move the base. I don't think, but we are potentially going to move everybody else in the middle. And that's usually where elections are decided, is somewhere in the middle. So you don't know what's going to happen. But this was particularly egregious. This was particularly painful. And of course, like you all said, we know he said it. Like, he said he doesn't like people who get captured. He was not just talking about John McCain. He's talking about anybody because he views them as being weak when, he had bone spurs.
Oh.
So
it was really painful, though, you guys. I had them once. I mean, but they went away pretty fast. It was like not really a long thing. I still would never have served in the Army, though. I wouldn't have passed the test for many reasons. It wouldn't be just bone spurs.
Well, bone spurs certainly don't keep you off the golf course, because, of course, while all of this was happening, he was at his private golf club. So, again, this could definitely have an effect, and this certainly has had an emotional effect, I think, on a lot of Americans. It's had an emotional effect on me. It just feels like it's just maybe the last frontier of things that he could do to continue to shit on this country. But when we say that, there's always something worse.
Always. It can always be worse. That's literally my life motto, is every time I'm down in the dumps and like a bunch of things aren't going right and I'm super depressed, it still can be worse. It's still like 2017 was literally the worst shit show, gross, dark part of my life ever. And I still the whole time thought, oh, you know what? It could be worse.
Well, it could be. And just when we think, like it can't get any darker, it can. Well, I want to get into, if we think it can't get any worse, I think it's time for us to open the library. I think that it's time for us to go ahead and start standing on our soapboxes and offer something that's really getting to us this week on a personal level. I am going to go around from my view, and I'm going to go down to Tony, if you would like to. Yes, it's you.
Well, we were talking a little bit about it earlier, but my soapbox is be vocal. We don't have time to I was going to come up with a bunch of different words. Willy waggle. We don't have time to willy waggle about who we're voting for, why we're voting for who we're voting for. Politics is personal. And yes, we want everyone to vote. We want everyone registered to vote. But when people say, don't push the boat, don't rock the boat. Rock the boat. That's what I'm saying. Rock those boats.
Rock those boats and make them sink.
Rock the boats to make them sink? I don't.
No, rock those boats.
Rock the boat. Rock the boat to rock the vote.
Yes.
We're just too many analogies.
Let's keep workshopping it.
It's a good start. It's a good start.
How much time do I have?
I'll come back around to you. Thinking about it, we'll come back around.
Sure.
Yeah, but no, I agree. Listen, I'm gonna go over to Ebony now.
I'm going to give you a little lecture on this idea of the glass cliff. Now, I'm not an MBA. I don't have a business degree. I'm just an English major from Connecticut. But the glass cliff is this idea that when society is in crisis, i.e. America or a company, that is when people of color, women, queer people are put in positions of power, and they're kind of set up to fail, right? Because we give these marginalized people power, and then we don't give them the actual tools to fix whatever it is that went wrong when white guys had the power, right? So we have to be really, really careful about this idea of putting marginalized folks, our people in power, and they're not giving them the tools to fix it, right? So if we're going to vote for this ticket with Harris on it, we've got to really give her the support that she needs to make real change. This is true with cities too. So we've got to think about Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. You can feel however you feel about her, right? But don't put a queer woman of color in charge and then hold her to a higher standard than you held all the white guys who had the job before. So this is something that I want you to look it up in Harvard Business Review. Google it, but find out about the glass cliff and then support the marginalized folks that you put into power. That's my read for the day.
And I think that's a fascinating thought because, especially because when we got into the Obama administration, you always heard thanks, Obama, because I think everybody expected him to fix everything. And it doesn't make sense, why we would do that. But yet, Trump, if he reads off a teleprompter for 5 minutes, we're like, yes, that's fantastic, right? Yeah, how impressive! Come on. Yeah, it's like, he lifts the water to his mouth, but he uses both hands. What does that say? I'm going to take this over to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, the bar is so low now.
So low. I mean, I always have something to loudmouth about. So yeah, I'll do a thing. So I think we spend a lot of time critiquing Trump folks and the people that support him and what to do against them and how to plan. And my roommate is definitely not walking right behind me with 2 plates of food. But I think it's sometimes we need to also self-reflect on our own team. And I think I understand that as the pendulum swings, with that we want to stamp out everything that Trump represents that's wrong, every bad behavior that he's allowed to happen. And as we swing and crash through that, sometimes we have a tendency to treat every bad behavior the same. You know, we want to punish someone who murdered someone the same as someone who stole a loaf of bread. And that's like a liberal problem that I kind of got into when I was talking to some of these Trump folks, because they think that there's freedom of speech is being taken away. And it's rooted in this behavior that we as liberals do, which is to smash everything equally and cancel everything equally and to treat it all the same. And we have to be able to see nuance within each individual wrongdoing situation. Like the extreme Trump people are never going to be affected by like logic and reason and discussion and empathy, but we can. And I really think we need to clock ourselves. I had a bunch of different things happen online for social media this weekend, but two really big ones where I had one friend tell me I had to defriend someone over something that they said that was questionable, but it wasn't definitively racist. And I was told I have to defriend that person. And that's not okay. That doesn't work. I also had someone who saw me at a winery in a mask with a coworker working. It was a work-related event. And he read me to filth online and said, I'm killing him by going into public. And then he told me to go F my mother and then blocked me on everything. And these are liberal friends that have went crazy in this pandemic. And we need to kind of focus on that as we move forward towards election day. And then afterwards, as we press Biden's feet to the flames of change after he's in office.
Agreed. Listen, I think we don't look at the entirety of the situation, and we've lost nuance. And that is a big part of why we're in the trouble that we're in. And I find that there are a lot of people who are liberal people who have forgotten how people can grow and change, who have forgotten about forgiveness, who have forgotten
We have to let people off the hook when there's room to do so.
Yes, because none of us are perfect. I mean, there are so many stupid things I've said and done, and I continue to do them. I probably said them on this broadcast. So, I'm going to get into...
You're getting canceled, Ben. Someone's going to review it all, and you're getting killed.
I'm getting canceled, and that's that. So, listen, I want to wrap up by just quickly talking about how on a 122-degree day, a couple of straight people thought that it would be a fun idea to have a gender reveal party that involved pyrotechnics. Nobody needs to know the sex. First of all, it's not a gender reveal. It's a sex reveal, because you don't know your baby's gender, because that's something that a person figures out for themselves over time. It is the sex that they are born with. And if you want to reveal that, then that's fine, because that's, of course, everybody's question when you have a baby. But we've gotten into a space where people are baking cakes, where people are releasing balloons, where people are setting off rockets in order to reveal what that is for people, and then cause a gigantic forest fire that has taken out hundreds of acres and caused ash to be spread. I still have ash on my back deck from it. So really appreciate that gender reveal. And that's not pink or blue. Heteros, all you heteros out there, I really, really hope that you stop doing these reveals, because I know that when my sister-in-law was pregnant with my nephew, there were people in the family who demanded that she do it, and she was not into it, and she did it anyway because she wanted to please the grandparents. It is not a great idea. Like, let's stop doing this, because of course we are now lighting the world on fire. That's really all it is. And I always knew that it would be straight people who would kill us in the end. So that's my read. Listen, it has been a wonderful episode of The Read Down. I really want to thank all of you. Of course, my wonderful co-host, Ebony Murphy-Root. I want to thank our special guests, Tony Rodriguez and Jeffrey Marx. I want to thank our stage manager, Kate Skinner, and of course, Alex Mohajer, who prepared clips, including a surprise video of himself at the during the broadcast. So The Read Down has been a production of the Stonewall Democratic Club. And if you're interested in finding out more about what we're doing at Stonewall, you can check us out at stonewalldems.org. It costs as little as $25 a year to join our club and see what we're up to. You can also visit stonewall.vote for more information on the national vote at Home Initiative to find out what we are doing to target 16 states ahead of the election. Catch us here on the Read Down every Tuesday at 6 o'clock on youtube.com/Stonewall Democrats. Thank you very much. Have a great night.